Hello, beautiful souls. I'm so grateful that you're tuning in. Welcome to my podcast, Misunderstood, guiding highly sensitive people through an emotional dark age. I'm your host, Candice Vandal, and I'm honored to embark on this transformative journey with you. Have you ever felt like you didn't quite fit into the world around you or even your own family? Like your sensitivity was a burden rather than a gift? If so, you're not alone. And here's the truth. Your sensitivity is not a flaw. It's a superpower. It's what allows you to feel deeply, to connect with others on a profound level, and to access a higher realm of consciousness. And on this podcast, we're going to explore how to harness that power and use it to create a life of purpose, passion, and true confidence. Here, in this sacred space, we honor your sensitivity as the gift it truly is. Get ready to embark on the journey of unapologetic emotional honesty and next-level healing. Let's dive in together. Hey guys, welcome to Misunderstood, guiding highly sensitive people through an emotional dark age. I'm your host, Candice Vandal, and today I'm so excited about our guest. I first found this guy on Instagram and I loved what he was saying. He is known for these mindfulness quotes that are very positive. And to be honest, they're like simple things that hit profoundly. And I just love that. Anyone who does a little bit of deeper dive, who's authentic, who celebrates the weirdness, who just wants you to be your authentic self, I'm into. So I want to let you guys know about my guest. If you don't know him, here is his intro. Case Kenny is an author, mindfulness expert, and the host of the popular podcast, New Mindset, Who Dis, part of the SiriusXM Media Network. Since Case launched the podcast in 2018, he's been delivering practical insights on personal growth and mindfulness practices, empowering listeners to lead passionate, purposeful, and joyful lives. Building on the success of the podcast, Case transformed New Mindset Who Dis into a lifestyle brand with the launch of a collection of mindfulness journals, providing his audience the tools to adopt journaling as a powerful daily practice. Case has also created a variety of mindfulness mental health focused products sold by big box retailers like Target and Walmart. On Instagram, Case captivates an audience of over 1 million followers with his meaningful red Sharpie messages. His viral quotes have gained widespread attention, resonating with influential names including Hailey Bieber, Viola Davis, Jessica Alba, Snoop Dogg, and many more, and featured on the Today Show, Good Morning America, Forbes, and others. In 2023, Case wrote his best-selling book, That's Bold of You, guiding readers to let go of self-judgment. Case regularly conducts in-person guided journaling workshops for diverse audiences, including communities like Soho House, corporate groups, NFL teams, and universities. Please welcome my guest, Case Kenny.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Are you in Chicago right now?
I'm in Miami. I moved down here about 2 years ago.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, you wouldn't know it given how pale I continue to be, but I do live in Miami.
Awesome. I'm originally from Chicago too. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, I get it. Midwest.
I'll be back in Chicago at some point. We're going to probably buy out there. But for now, just trying to soak up the sun.
Nice. Is there any specific reason you moved to Miami?
The sun.
Just the sun? But you haven't found it yet.
I've been coming down here for years. Yeah. I've been coming down here for years. And it's always just, felt like a cool opportunity. And then my lease ended and my girlfriend's lease ended at the same time. So we decided to move down. We were going to be down here for 6 months and then it turned into 2 years. So it's been nice. We've met a lot of friends and it's a cool city.
It's so funny like that. I was in LA forever and my boyfriend moved to Atlanta and we reconnected. And so last year I moved to the East Coast as well. So now I'm in Atlanta and I'm like, I'll be here 3 months and we'll figure it out. And it's been 11 months. I'm like,
yeah, I feel like that's life for you. You just keep finding more and more reasons to stay. And yeah, Miami's great. Miami's got a bad rap. People are like, oh, it's for strip clubs and scammers. And I mean, sure. Yeah. But it's also got amazing people. Like I've met some really good friends. There's a lot of like wellness circles down here. It's awesome. So you can find what you're looking for.
That kind of goes into my first question with you because I myself lived in Las Vegas for a couple of years with my ex-husband. And I was like, Vegas, it's crazy. But honestly, I lived in Summerlin, which is like nature and mountains, and people have such a wrong idea. And one of the things I was going to ask you about is like, for me personally, after doing so many years of healing, I feel like wherever I am, I actually find home. Wherever I am,
Yeah.
I'm, vibing with whatever. I had no idea who I'd hang out with. I live in the woods now in the mountains, and I'm like, okay, anyone I run into on the trail, I'm obsessed with. I'm like, these are good people everywhere I go. So I kind of wanted to start by asking you a little bit about your journey, but also, I see in your journey, you're really just raw and real and all about being authentic. And I wanted to ask you how you would define your true self.
How would I define my true self? Well, I certainly think it's changed and is changing, and I think like that's the best thing. I was talking to someone yesterday for an interview, and the temptation was really there in this interview because it's for the press to be like, I'm Case Kenny, I'm an expert this and expert that, and I've got a lit agent, I've got an agent and manager who are like, oh, Case, no, you got to be an expert. Like we have to brand you as an expert, this and that.
Yeah.
I think if there's anything I've realized through this whole thing, mindfulness, introspection, creative outlets, it's the more you do this, the more you realize you don't know. So I think it's a essential requirement of people. If you're looking at people and you're like, should I trust this person or does this person know what they're talking about? To see how humble they are. And for
Hmm.
me, I have to be humble because I realize how much I don't know. And every time, the more I do these things, I realize, the more there is to discover about myself, the more opportunity there is to reinvent aspects of myself. So to answer your question, I don't really know. I don't really have a great answer for you. I could put some words to it and it'll sound nice, but I mean I'm 36 and I think I've changed every 2 to 3 years, like fundamentally as a person, as a man, as a boyfriend, as a writer, as a brother, as a son. And I think that's how it's supposed to be. I think we get in dangerous
Wow.
territory where we say this is who I am and that's that. I think there's certain elements of yourself who you should never let go, of course, and it's great to define yourself, but for the most part I think this exercise is an exercise of humility and evolution, and that is a requirement to becoming your best self, whatever that looks like. So that is my non-answer.
I absolutely love that because, I've been teaching and building courses and stuff for the last 11 years. And one of the things people say to me is the reason they come to me is I will never say I'm a master at something, I'm a guru. I always say, I'm just healing. And I'm kind of showing you the way I've gone. And if it resonates with you, great. But when people say, oh, I'm a guru and I'm this, I'm like, ooh, question that
Yeah.
because that can change in any moment. And I think the more humble we are, we become more in a flow of becoming, and that becomes the confidence. Like for me, I don't know about you, I like talking about confidence a lot because people always say, like, how do you define your confidence? I'm like, that I'm always open to being wrong, to
Yeah.
something upgrading, to doing something different, to making mistakes. I find joy in that because then I have more wisdom from an experience. How would you maybe feel about confidence or talk about how someone can gain it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's in line with what a lot of people say, which is, confidence comes from evidence and evidence comes
Mm.
from action and action comes from introspection. So, by the transitive property, confidence is introspection. So, I mean, you know, we could define confidence as, not caring what other people think or, knowing that you can recover from anything. Like we could put some like, outcome reaction to it. But I think for the most part, it always comes from evidence of trying and failing, evidence of being vulnerable, all these different things. And your willingness to do those things comes from introspection, knowing that you should do those things. So,
Mhm.
you know, for me, it comes from that. It also comes like in a sense lately in my life from like I don't even know the right words for it. It's like my confidence comes from having a clean conscience, like
Mhm.
that I'm not like wronging anyone or being selfish in one aspect or being negative in another. Like that's kind of like an empowering thing to know. I was writing quotes earlier. I was literally just writing them, about the temptation there is to become like the people who have hurt you. It's a very natural human thing to do. You've seen the example set for you, you kind of follow it, or you've been hurt objectively, and it kind of turns your heart cold and you become that bitter, resentful, hurtful, selfish, spiteful person. And to not do that, I think, is the ultimate confidence builder. To say that someone or the world or groups of people tried to hurt you and tear you down, but you refuse to do that. What better, bigger confidence builder is there than a refusal to become like those people and stoop to their level? So I think there's a lot of levels here, but in a less sexy way, it really does come from introspection.
I love that. I One of the things I focus on a lot in my work recently is being a cycle breaker. And one of the things that I see in generational trauma is that hurt people. But once you do that shadow work and that deep inner child work, you learn that, oh, my mother was wounded by her mother. My father was wounded. So it's like this generational thing. It happened to you, but it's not personal. And a lot of people think that they're a victim. And when you feel like you are a victim, yes, you might have been victimized for sure. Something happened to you. But when you continue hurting others, you're actually doing the exact same thing and continuing that trauma. And one of the things that, like you said, in my work, it becomes very liberating to live in your integrity and know I'm a good
Yeah.
person. Like, no matter what happened to me, I'm not doing that to someone because I know what it feels like instead of, I need to get justice on this negative feeling. Let me do it to you so I can feel powerful in that way. It's a completely different paradigm of how to live free. And so I love that you said that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's even a more zoomed out practical addition here to what you're saying, which I love, which is I just did an episode on it. I read it in the Harvard Business Review, where this is within the context of the workplace, but I think it definitely transitions to general life. But they showed that people who have cynical attitudes towards life, that is, they think everyone's out to get them. You got to step on a couple people's necks to be successful. You got to stab some people in the back. It's dog eat dog. It's competitive. You got to do what you got to do, match energy, but don't
Yeah.
lead, don't give too much, right? Cynical worldview. Those people, and we've been taught in life, our parents have taught us that that's what it takes, man. Like, the world's cold dark place. You got to protect yourself,
Opposite.
you got to watch your back, and sometimes you got to do the dirty stuff. Like, we've been taught that that is the key
Mm-hmm.
to elevation and success and happiness and fulfillment. And they showed that specifically within the workplace, people who have that mentality earn less, are promoted less, and are less fulfilled. And the flip side
Mm-hmm.
of that would be optimism. So the headline is that optimists make more money, are
Mm-hmm.
promoted more, are happier. So not just the workplace, but you
Mm-hmm.
know, and what makes an optimist an optimist? The thesis of the article, which is also mine, which is make trust your default in life, and not like naive trust, like you trust
Right.
the dude on the corner of the street, but you approach interactions with positive intention as the background for all of them, and then you react. Talk about confidence, knowing that you could
Mm-hmm.
react to whatever, but you let people in, you let them in, and then you see
Mm-hmm.
what happens, and then you protect yourself. But they showed that those people who have the optimistic versus cynical mentality towards life make more, you're richer, they're happier, you're happy, that's fantastic, you're promoted more. So all these things. So I mean, I think there's a layer of practicality here when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
not closing off, like, is natural. And whether it happened in your childhood and you've been carrying this and nursing it and finding more evidence of it, or whether it's more recent, or whether it's driven by social media and everyone's saying how men are crazy and women are this and everyone's out to get you, like, whatever your input is to resist that and be an optimistic person, there's so much upside. And that's, yeah, my mission. But yeah.
Yeah, I love that because what that kind of reminds me of is, boundaries and discernment. A lot of people think, and you said it very clear, society says that if you act this way, you'll be successful. What I always say is, well, I like to talk about society versus universe. And I give
Mm.
universe my power because a lot of people, when I started this career, a million years ago, people were like, how are you going to make money as a spiritual coach? I'm like, oh, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about this mission that I have to like share truth. And if people like
Mm.
it, awesome. And what's funny is this career is much more fulfilling and lucrative and abundant and connected than my other career, which was modeling and acting. I'm like, oh, society, right? And now I'm
Yeah.
like, universe. So it's kind of funny how when you have the, I guess, courage to follow what feels good, to follow that mindset that people say, oh, you're delusional if you think this and that. And you're like, okay, cool, let's see. It makes me feel better and healthier. My body's relaxed. My nervous system feels healthy. So I feel like a lot of people have that block between, well, if I'm not this way, I won't be successful. So many people come to me, and as they awaken their spiritual gifts or their empathy or they heal from trauma, they're like, I'm afraid that this version of me won't be enough. And I'm busy saying, well, that's the version of you that you were born perfect for your purpose, and all the conditioning took you away from that version. Now you're back from that version. I want you to just trust me and try it.
Yeah.
So, on that note, I wanted to ask you, what were you doing before you were doing this?
I worked in advertising for about 12
Oh,
years. So I ran a sales team selling advertising technology, which honestly was great. Like, I reference it a lot as like a coming of age tale. Like I always say, like, if I can give two really practical pieces of advice to people, I say you should work in sales at some point in your life, whether it's selling cars or selling advertising technology, and you should wait tables at some point. I think between those two
Mm.
experiences, you'll learn a lot about yourself, you'll learn a lot about other people. But yeah, doing sales for I ran that team for about 8 years. Uh, that was, I mean, it taught me so much about myself. Like, I used to be like, I didn't like to talk, public speak. I was pretty introverted, pretty shy. I'd rather listen than talk. And,
Hmm.
it really showed me that I could build something from zero. I could become the person that I wanted. I could overcome awkwardness and expectation and all these different things. So, like, I really owe a lot of my current confidence to just the grind of sales.
Yeah.
But it was great.
Yeah, and also the humility of waiting tables. I mean, those two things together of learning how to self-promote from something that's really of service, but also have humility to relate to all these different people is you need both to be successful and to feel good and to feel
Yeah.
connected. So I really love that example. I wanted to dive in because a lot of my listeners really love talking about relationship. And I feel like relationship to self, in my experience, is a complete mirror to the relationship we have with others. A lot of people talk about narcissistic relationships in my groups and things, and I always say, well, the best gift you'll get from that is learning how to truly love yourself. I wonder if you have any experience in that, because I know you write a lot about relationships too, and if you wanted to share some insights
On narcissists?
on relationship
On
in
anything?
general. And
Oh,
yeah,
well, I could talk
or
your
do you have
ear
an
off.
hour?
I mean, you clear your schedule for that.
Okay.
I mean, I've done, so many episodes and on that. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think like the best thing we could do, frankly, like, I'm a little at war with like terms like narcissist and gaslighting and love bombing and these things, because the internet has just gotten a hold of them so much so that we've
Yep.
attached labels to things before we even have time to analyze them, and we categorize people instantly, and that's the cynical attitude that I think we need to overcome. So perhaps you share the same worldview.
Yeah.
I think we need to escape that. I like joke that, like, when we're in a relationship with someone, whether we know it or not, like, we're in a threesome. We let someone else in that relationship, metaphorically, without
Mm.
us even like realizing it. Whether that's the internet at large or something your friend said about something. Like, we are
Oh my
so in our
gosh.
heads about what the right way love should look like that
Mm.
we sabotage ourselves. And certainly, there are people who are narcissists, the
Mhm.
whatever 2% of the 2% of the 1% of people who deserve that quality. Sure. For the other times, people are doing hurtful things. And that's
Mhm.
the reality of life that I think we need to come around to. And that's a conversation about standards and boundaries and awareness, like the practical stuff, that I think requires just practical thinking. But for the most part, I a lot of my work is less like rules around dating or tactics around dating, and it's more around redefining what the point of a relationship is in the first place. Because when we're so in our heads
Mhm.
about people being narcissists and, oh, is this love bombing? No, that's just enthusiasm. Like, conversations like that. Outside of that, like, I just really want to encourage people to remember what the point of a relationship is in the first place. And for me, it's a very simple definition. It's to amplify the happiness that you've already found for yourself. It has to be an amplifier. It cannot be a completion. It can't be I can't build my life until I have a partner. It can't be any of those things, because that's when
Mm-mm.
we become blind to a lot of elements of reality. So it has to be an amplifier. To amplify means there has to be something existing. So it is our obligation to ourselves to find love and joy within ourselves first and foremost. And I know that is a cliche, but there's a reason that cliches are cliches. Is because it's so freaking true. The point of life is to have a partner to do life with. It's not necessarily to build life with. And I think that's an important distinction, because, yes, in a sense, like, when you have a partner and you have a family and you build a legacy together, you are building something from the ground up. But
Mhm.
the language is a little sketchy, because it should be, you are a whole person, you
Mhm.
found a joy. They are a whole person, they found joy. You come together and you do life together. You have two individual pieces coming together who maintain elements of their individualism, and that's
Yep.
fantastic. But you're not saying, oh man, I can't build the life of my dreams until I have a partner. What does that mean you're
Crazy.
doing in the in the meantime? You're just
Waiting.
twiddling your thumbs. Like, what a passive, negative, draining way to look at life. So I really want people to rethink the purpose, the point of a relationship, so that there
Mhm.
isn't that pressure, so that we don't make mistakes, so that we don't misjudge people, all those things. But it's an uplifting take.
I love this. I was on a hike last night with my boyfriend, and we have an interesting story. We were together 15 years ago and broke up. I married someone else, didn't talk for a full decade, and got back
Oh, wow.
together. Yeah. Got back together 3 years ago. It was very like divine intervention. We always knew we'd end up together, but I kind of forgot that idea when I married someone else and I had a whole life. But it did work that way. And so we were talking about it last night, and we're like, gosh, it's so funny how these days marriage has been so redefined. And he's like, yeah, a lot of times people get married because they want someone to make their life better. I go, excuse me. I go, I'm extremely happy. I don't need anyone to make me happier or make my life better. I want to share it with someone who's also happy in themselves, in their autonomy. And he's like, yeah, but that's not most people, Candace. And it kind of hit me like, I think
Mm,
it's starting to be, but I think it's true. The old paradigm of relationship and marriage was very much different. It was very much based on security. It wasn't like, oh, let me be my full version
for
and then
sure.
meet my full version. It was like, let's become something together. And I think that kind of, opens up a lot of codependency and opens up a lot of,
Yeah.
compromising of self. And, I would be the first person to say I never in a million years thought I would get divorced. But when I did, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. I mean, we just literally grew in different directions, but I feel now like 100% more in my power because I'm not um, doing anything or waiting for someone to fulfill me in some way or take care of me in some way. When you become all the things that you're looking for, and people say, but it is cliche, they're like, find the one you're looking for. I did become that. And now the one I was looking for was all those years ago, but I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And I didn't love myself in that way back then. And I remember him telling me 15 years ago, he's like, you need to go learn to love yourself. And here I am in this other version, and he's back. And I'm like, geez, like partnership that is conscious wants you to be your whole version, wants you to be in your power, wants you to have autonomy and be happy and have your friends. I just went on a girls' trip last week and like last month, and he's like, I love it. How was it? And that is having like interdependence. What do you think about codependency in relationships and interdependence and keeping autonomy? What are your thoughts about all that?
I have a book coming out next year that literally the catalyst for it was, I think independence is a core requirement of a relationship. I think independence
Mhm.
should be something that grows in a relationship. Like, you
Mhm.
should be more independent because of your relationship. And
Totally.
that thinking came from something called the dependency paradox, which is literally just an observation in child rearing and adolescence, that the closer a child feels to their caregiver, the more independent they're empowered to feel. Right? It
100%.
makes sense, right?
Wow.
Your toddler knows that their mom is going to take care of them and love them,
Mhm.
that they're willing to jump off a table, in a roundabout way. And
Safety.
I was like, if that's true in childhood, that the good kind of dependency, not codependency, the
Mhm.
good kind of dependency and connection between a caregiver and a child, if that's true, then that should be true in a relationship, in that you should have a closeness that inspires both of you to be independent. And that is how a relationship should be. And we need to get away from this thing of, oh, he wanted to play golf today and not hang out with me, something's wrong with our relationship. No,
Oh boy.
craziness. No. So, and some of that, there's nuance to that, but I saw that and I was like, man, I got to write about this. So I am writing basically a book about that. Um,
Great.
I- and even like the terms that we throw around, like big reason I'm writing this book is because I don't like the term settle down. I think it's like, it gives such a bad promise to a relationship.
Yeah.
Like, the only way that that's accurate is, yeah, of course, you're settling down in the sense of you're not dating other people. Okay. But otherwise, that is a horrible selling point of a relationship. Settling
No one
down,
wants to settle.
settle down. First of all, it's got the word settle in it. Second of all, it's got the word down in it. Like, it's just horrible. And
When you
I
said that,
really
I was
don't.
like, can we say settle up? Like, that's a little
Well,
better.
spoiler alert, that's what I call it in the book. But
Oh,
uh
yay.
yeah, like, again, it should be an amplifier, it should be a moreness, it should be a more of everything: physical,
Mhm.
emotional, travel, culture, art, like the whole thing. So I'd say that.
Mhm.
And then also, I was going to react to what you're saying earlier. Anytime like I'm 36, a younger person, someone in their like early 20s, comes to me with, frustration about dating, I feel like, we all become our parents or something in a sense. I'm like, you're so young. like trying to find your soulmate when you're 22 or
Mhm.
23 or even like 26, like to me, just like
Mhm.
feels a little forced. And again, who am I to judge the timing of your life? If you found your person that young, that's fantastic. But again, pressure to have this thing figured out so early, like dating in college. Sure, if you feel really drawn to this person, but for the most part, love your life. Give yourself a long road ahead to have some fun and create some joy so that it could be amplified down the road. Don't look back and realize that you held yourself short because you were obsessed by finding this completion. And yeah, I think
Mhm.
it's something you said earlier. I mean, I think there is a lot of history and cultural and parental expectation here that I think in a couple generations will be completely different. But
Mhm.
we're not too far removed from the 50s and 60s where marriage was literally, to your point, a
Mhm.
security element. So
Mhm.
those things are still very much so within culture and upbringing. But we need to give ourselves time. I think timing, to your point, I think timing is everything. And sometimes we don't know the timing, and sometimes we try to force the timing. And I
Mhm.
think the middle ground is probably where the sweet spot is.
I just love this. I'll just say a few things about what you just described. In my 20s, I was traveling the world doing my career, doing my thing. And I remember thinking, I don't want to get married if I have kids until later because I want to not feel like they screwed me. I didn't get to be
Mm,
me. Like I was
yeah.
very into that. And now I look back, I'm 46 now. And I look back at, I got married at 34 and I felt like that was perfect. And I decided not to have kids during that time. And now back with my love at this age, we're like, none of that mattered. What
Yeah.
mattered is what we experienced, what we explored, what we went through, what we grew through. It makes it such a deeper experience to, yes, have an idea about how you want life and then relax and allow what's actually supposed to happen because it will be right. And if I were to ever tell you 15 years ago, I'm going to be back with there's no way I would have believed any
Yeah.
of these
That's
events. I
wild.
couldn't have.
Yeah.
And when I saw the events and how they happened, and I look at other friends of mine, many people going through divorce at my age, it's like, wow, I really see like a lot of those women that settled down because they wanted the security. And by the
Mm.
way, these are some of my best friends who are now shifting out of things. They are feeling so upset, so frustrated. And I ask them specifically, is that what you wanted to do? And what their answer is, well, I thought doing this would get me that. I do not live
Exactly.
for the
Yeah.
expectation. I live for how do I feel now? And I'm excited to see what may or may not happen. It's that freedom of like letting it show you instead of needing it to be something. I
Yeah.
think that allows our timing to align with that secure attachment to self in life.
Yeah. I like that a lot. Yeah. I mean, it comes back to the core of, what is the point of a relationship? Is it to finally start the life that you've always dreamed of? And I think a lot of that thinking comes
Mm,
from parental expectations and examples set for us that, oh, family, kids, house, like that
mhm,
is the goal of life. And
mhm,
again, I would never discredit anyone who's they
mhm,
say my purpose in life is to be a father or a
mhm.
mother. Like I think that's great. Like some people
Right.
truly feel so drawn to that and they don't care about anything else. But I think there's a lot else to life.
Mhm,
Like controversial statement, but I think there's a lot more to life than just love. Like I think love is an incredibly powerful, purposeful, one of the top 3 at
mm,
least points of being alive and connecting with other people. But there's many kinds of love. There's
mhm,
platonic, there's friends, there's business partners, there's love for the world and love for joy, and like there's all these different types of love. There's your work, there's creativity, there's spontaneity, there's curiosity, there's all these things that I think we're just so quick to dismiss as being secondary, or to your point and your friend's point, things that you'll get when you find your love, that I think we've like lost sight of the order of operations. Good old PEMDAS from school. I think we've forgotten that. Well, I guess we've realized that there is no order of operations, and love
mm,
doesn't have to come first. And then also, it's like love certainly can give you new versions of all those other things together. Like I'm so fortunate to have that with my girlfriend, of,
mhm,
the moreness that we get from life that brings more joy and spontaneity and curiosity and travel and adventure and these things into
mhm,
into our lives. But, we can have all those things in life. They might just not be at the same time. And that's okay. You could live a life of great, intense curiosity and joy and success and fulfillment and financial independence, and then you could
Mhm.
find your love. Like
Yeah.
there's no set order to these things, and we need to not put that pressure on ourselves.
I absolutely love that. One of the things that I was thinking about when I started doing what I would call my mission, my purpose work, this work in the world, 'cause it's just I just obsessed with what I get to do. I
Yeah.
feel so lucky. When I made that or found, I guess, my passion from within, it took so much pressure off whoever I'm with because I'm like, this is my passion. Like, you don't have to be my everything. You don't have to be my passion. You don't have to be the source of all of my happiness. And I think that when I like to coach women about finding their purpose and their autonomy and their independence, they're afraid to do that because we've been taught in a way like we need someone to feel safe. That's so
Mm.
codependent thinking.
Yeah.
But when they find their thing and do it, like for me, I know whatever happens in my life, I still have this. I still have me. It's in me. And I want my person to have that. So when I see him doing his career, me doing mine, it lights me up because I'm like, I love watching him do his thing. That has nothing to do with me. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
And together we get to celebrate and make it even more exciting to share it with someone. But when somebody or your love relationship or you're waiting for that is your everything, it's over responsibility in a way. It's like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
You do you, I do me. And together it's even better. It is the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that is the bar. That is where the bar should be.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a relationship where, I can, but I don't want to, where like all you have is each other. That sounds like a good thing, but to me, that's like a horrible thing.
Yeah.
Like, need lives outside. Like, for me, for instance, I'm very independent. I'm always doing weird shit. I'm always traveling and speaking and writing. My girlfriend is a DJ. So she's in the
That's
club until 4 a.m. I'm usually with her, but sometimes not. Like, we have such great parallel independent curiosities
mm,
and career paths and drive. Like, we're so driven towards each of these things. And I think
mhm,
it creates such a healthy balance. And again, not everyone wants to do that. Some people want to work their 9 to 5, come home,
mhm,
fantasy
mhm.
football and whatever.
Yeah.
But like, have that element there. Have that element of identity outside of each other. Otherwise, I don't know. It might not be the world's worst thing, but I just think there's so much more to like. I saw someone the other day talked about how like happiness is meant to be shared, and I thought that
Mhm,
was really beautiful. Like, I found a lot of happiness in my individual Case Kenny life, and so does my girlfriend.
mhm,
And we bring that together, and it's a
mhm,
beautiful amplifier, and it's this great thing that we both bring this happiness and we share it together, as opposed to having no happiness and creating it together. To
mhm.
your point, it puts all the pressure on the relationship to be the focal point of your universe, and I think that's tough. And especially like, I had a conversation with someone the other day who just had a son, and
Mhm.
he was feeling a little vulnerable about it because he's like, man, he's like, now like my wife's full attention is on the child.
Mm,
He's like, I, no longer get to focus on some of the things that used to bring me joy.
mm,
I'm feeling weird. I'm feeling some emotions here. I'm feeling jealousy, resentment, these
mhm.
things. And I was like, yeah. I was like, well, first of all, I don't have kids, so I don't really want to give advice there. But I think that's a pretty common thing when you bring a life into life.
Yeah.
It changes everything. But that's why it's important before you do that, you find different sources of joy in your life and you
Mm.
go all in on them by yourself. And then you bring it with a partner, you amplify it, and then you could have that, bringing a life into the world. But yeah, all
Yeah.
related.
It's also knowing those choices. Like when you make the choice to have children, there's going to be a period of time where she's with the kid.
Yeah.
And you need to have your outlets. And
Yeah.
something else you said that I wanted to touch on because I really freaking love your example of you and your girlfriend. Like you both are entrepreneurial, you're both creatives, you're both doing this. Same with us. And what's funny is many years ago, I thought, oh, I need a grounded one because I just want to fly and do my thing. And what I've learned over time as I've gotten older is when I've been with someone that is that secure sort of 9 to 5 or whatever, yeah, that's cute. But also, I can't actually live the life that I created because I created
Mm.
this career where I can work from frickin' anywhere, right? And it's been like this for over a decade. And if you have to run your business here, that might stifle my
Yeah.
creation a little.
Yeah.
And so I love that you said that because I've been shifting a lot lately and I've been really um, just appreciating the fact that we're both free in that way. Neither one of us had kids. Neither one, it's weird how it all worked
Yeah.
out, right? Like
Yeah.
we could go into that forever, but it worked out in the way that our lifestyles are very compatible. And I know compatibility and love, we can talk about that a lot. Like it's not always the same thing. It's not the same thing. But to have love and compatibility, it's fucking amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I mean, I've talked about that before. I mean, those are things that we confuse a lot, especially when we're younger. And
Mhm.
we, oh my gosh, we have so much in common. Like we're both
Mhm.
Aries and we both love blah, blah, blah. It's like that is compatibility, and that's like very important, right?
Yeah,
Physical compatibility, compatible values, and sports alliances,
yeah,
whatever. Like cool stuff. But like that most certainly is not love. And that's where we start to develop this like negative worldview. I think a lot of times when we're
totally.
young, and that we keep finding compatibility, and it's like it never takes the next level. So we're like, I'm not enough, or no
Mhm.
one's serious, or love is dead, or dating apps are the worst, and we just get in our heads because we keep finding compatible people. You and I are probably compatible with thousands of people, tens of hundreds of
Yeah.
thousands of people in life. Base level compatibility.
Mhm.
And if we confuse that for love and we strike out 10,000 times, we're going to be like, well, love, it doesn't exist. Of course not. So I think from an
Wow.
optimist perspective, it's very important that we realize that compatibility is shared likeness, physical attraction, sense of humor, the basics, important stuff. Of course. I think it would be difficult to have love without compatibility, but love is not
Mhm.
compatibility. Love goes much deeper. We can talk about love being a
Mhm.
a choice, not a feeling, and all these different things. But I think we need to get over that hurdle of thinking that compatibility means love is soon to follow, which it definitely isn't. And I think that's the gift of life sometimes, frankly.
On that point, I will say for a lot of women, we find love and then there's not compatibility. But it's not,
Sure.
is it love or is it attraction? And
Right.
a lot of people get confused about, chemistry versus real love. And so I think a lot of women, especially sensitive women that I work with, they fall in love too fast because they're looking for an attachment. And what I like
Yeah.
to always share is when you learn to be securely attached to self, which is based on every single thing we've just talked about today, like having your own autonomy, independence, individuality, you're creating a secure attachment to self. And then you're not needing to connect with others so quickly. You're kind of checking it out to see, are we compatible?
Yeah.
Is there an attraction that could become love? Is there morals and values and integrity shared there that could become something over time? And so I love all these aspects of redefining things and really like figuring out what works for us versus what we think should work or what we
Yeah.
think we're going to get. It's just how you feel.
Yeah, I'm like an internet compiler. There was this tweet that went viral like a year ago that basically said, this was someone's opinion. They said that women start men from 100 and subtract, and men start women at 0 and add. And I think
Wow.
that's the idea of like women sometimes coming across a man and they're like, oh my gosh, we've got XYZ in common, and he's this and
Mhm.
I'm that. 100. We
Mhm.
put women maybe put men on this pedestal because they want that completion. And then the tweet said that men do it at 0, and for a
Hmm.
woman, you got to add it at. And I don't know whether that's true. I'm sure you could find
Hmm.
support for both. I think the right answer, of which we're circling here, of course, would be in the middle, 50-50, strong sense of self, strong sense of awareness between
Mhm.
compatibility and love and attraction and all these things. And you start at 50, you have that default to trust that we're talking about with optimism, and you add or you subtract from there. But you never all in, because you truly don't know someone. You do not know someone until you have conflict. And I always say like the beginning of dating is not real. And I don't say that in a cynical way. I say it in the sense of, yeah, when you first meet someone, you're wearing your best, you're being your funniest, you're being your nicest. Like you need to break free from date 3 and 4 and get to the real stuff. So you just need to give yourself time. And within that time, to avoid obsessing, you need to have a life outside of them. So all these topics are intertwined.
Totally intertwined. You got to check things out and you got to have enough confidence to give yourself the time to do that. So, this has been really fun. I know you got to go soon. So, I wanted to ask you, is there anything you wanted to leave us with, or where to find you, or what you're promoting right now? Some last insights,
Yeah.
whatever you like to
Sure.
share.
Yeah. No. No. Of course. So thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I always take the opportunity to talk about myself or what I've learned. So it is gratifying. So thanks for having me. No, I mean,
Absolutely.
it's Instagram, case.kenny. That's where I do all my writing. I wrote a book the other year called That's Bold of You, which is about a lot of these topics as well, about,
Mhm.
refusing to define yourself by different terms like too loud or too quiet or too much or too eager or
Mm,
too difficult, these things that society has really placed upon us or our parents or whoever it may be. So if you're looking
yeah.
to kind of reinvent yourself or step into who you think is your true self, you could pick that up. And then, yeah, just the podcast. I've done 630 episodes, just little
Amazing.
quick chats like this. It's called New Mindset Who Dis.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure getting to know you a little bit and everything that you're doing. And I just love everything you shared. So I'm really looking forward to everybody checking you out and listening to this and sharing. And just thank you so much.
Yeah,
I really
thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.